tank station. With my experience is also in electrical cars, but so I'm really looking forward also that the logistic is now present for decarbonization. I will give the word also to my colleague Bas.
Yes, thanks, Eric. So good morning, everyone. Warm welcome over here in the room and also for those folks joining online. We'll try and make this a little bit interactive, especially trying to also get some interaction with those that have joined from places far away, not physically here in Amsterdam. So my name is Bas van Oosterhout, by difficulty pronounced clearly Dutch. I've joined VARO at the start of this year in capacity as Vice President for Customer Value Proposition. So very much focusing on the energy and decarbonization needs that the customers have that we serve. My background is one that I've been in energy for quite some time. Pre-VARO, I was at Shell. Before that, I was in consultancy. And sort of decarbonization and sustainability, in hindsight, has always been a common theme. So today we'll hone in a bit more on the perspective that we have as an energy supplier when it comes to decarbonization, different options that are available to the logistics sector and the associated pros and cons maybe with each of these. So we'll look forward to a little bit of interaction. And maybe to start with that, Eric, you want to... That we'll just get rolling? Oh, let me just hit it here otherwise. Is that... All right, so... Fantastic. There we go. So we have prepped a Mentimeter. You will find the code...
Please take your telephone. And also the people online, we can have an interaction. Please take all your telephones and we go just to the Mentimeter site. And you can use the code here on top of the screen. And that code will give you access to this question. And the question that we have is, do you have a defined decarbonization strategy, for example, going to net zero in a certain year, or even another year, or even no year? So if you can go to the Mentimeter site, type in the code 72846727, you will arrive to this page. And I don't see that, well, there's at least one answer already there. So somebody says we're going to be net zero by 2050. But maybe there are also other answers possible. I see now that everybody is online. So we will see what's happening. And of course, you see also the picture here that it's going to be a long way, but everybody has their own, let's say, goals. I see now that everybody is answering and we're gathering everything together. So decarbonization strategy is also something that, well, we see a lot, but we don't know exactly what the logistics also have in mind. I see now that 11 people already have answered the question, and one is giving the thumbs up. So that means maybe that that's a good question.
Yeah, so some of you have not yet voted, but that's. I think what we see here is actually quite remarkable. That it's roughly 50-50 almost between having a defined strategy with a set year, and some that have other or no. So that's maybe a first one. Shall I try and switch it to the second one for you, Eric?
All right, thank you. So we go now to the second question. How many of your customers have a defined decarbonization strategy? So it means that, well, as transport company or logistics supplier, you have your customer, and maybe they have a decarbonization strategy that you have to adapt or that they ask for you. So, it goes in intervals. So it can be that maybe only 25%. So I see now here that 8 of the answers are, or even 9 now, are saying it's only very limited. It's not. So some of them say that they have a lot of decarbonization strategy, but most of the people say no, there's not. I see a question.
Remark. I chose that blue March line also, but it is
maybe I will give you the microphone.
With us, it is the largest customers do have such a strategy. So, despite it aren't that many customers, the majority of the goods we transport are transported for customers that have a strategy. So.
So you interpret it, well, what is it? Is it the amount, is it the share, or is it the number? Yeah. Yeah.
Then I have to say limited. If I count the number of customers, I have to say limited. But if I have to count goods, I have to say a lot. So.
Thanks. That is a great add. This does not consider the volume indeed that each of these customers represent. So let's move on. Oh, sorry.
Sorry. Okay. We need to use the microphone for online people. Yeah.
Okay, so also an add-on on what Blide is saying, like, you know, there are also many customers who say, we go for net zero 2050, but there's no strategy behind it. So if you look into that, it is a totally different approach. And some people buy off with credits and they say, oh, we already have net zero.
Yes.
So what is a strategy?
Thanks. I think that's actually a great point because what you do in terms of the actual energy that you shift towards a lower CO2 form of energy vis-a-vis offsets and those kind of products is very different and is also very much looked upon differently by different corporates that may be the customers that you serve. So before we delve into that, maybe just really briefly 2 minutes about VARO Energy. Because, well, we recognize that there may be some folks that don't know us. VARO as a company is founded about 10 years ago. We celebrated our 10th anniversary earlier this year. And as a company, we are quite a significant provider of energy, mostly in the form of liquid fuels. So we have a business that has been sort of quite hefty on the focusing on the conventional forms of energy, so the fossil side. But we have also been quite a frontrunner of actually bringing renewables into the energy mix. And we have done that from basically the inception of VARO all the way through to different companies getting together, forming VARO in the end. And that is something which we are actually still doing today. So, for example, yesterday we announced that we will acquire a company called Elexon, which is focusing on the enabling the electrification of commercial fleets, so light commercial vehicles and trucks. In terms of facts and figures, we aspire to be net zero by 2040. We actually do have a robust plan that sits behind it because that is something which we are also challenged on by our customers. We're quite sizable, so the markets that we are active in are focused in Northern Western Europe, and in each of these, we do represent a significant share of the market. In terms of investments, where we are at, very much focused on renewables, planning to invest significant amounts over the next couple of years, with about 2/3 of that actually going to renewables, so lower carbon solutions. As the acquisition of Elexon is a great demonstration point. So it's sort of, that is us in a nutshell. And then
maybe Bas, also these 5 pillars, because they do represent our future. So we're focusing. Yeah. So this one is the conventional energies that we're now in, and we're going to the sustainable energy. And these 5 pillars, they are the road to this. And we will come back to that later. But hydrogen, biofuels, biogas, e-mobility, and carbon removals are part of this.
Thanks. Indeed. So for us, just wanted to focus a bit on what is actually happening basically in the value chain. Because we as an energy player are part of the value chain. Hauliers, shippers, governments. Basically, it's everybody coming together that needs to come together in order to get to a lower carbon footprint and lowering the emissions associated with logistics in the end. And what we have put here is just a simple collection of different drivers that all have the same intention, but the effect that they have are actually really quite different. There is, of course, a lot of policy rolling down from the EU, which is then implemented by countries. However, it's very often a directive, so it is not entirely precise how it should be implemented across countries, and therefore, across borders. Sometimes it may lead to strange situations. We also have local authorities more and more into the mix with zero emission zones that will be installed, not only in the Netherlands, Germany, Belgium. It's basically happening in every country across Europe. We see the hauliers as well as the shippers also adding a number of KPIs to the mix. Things kicking in like CSRD, that will be a segue into ETS2, so the European trading scheme, the emission trading scheme that will be expanded. And in the end, shippers, from an ESG stance, they value not only the solution itself, but also the robustness of the paperwork associated with the solution quite a bit. Because, let's say, one of the things that we notice as an energy provider is that for some customers, they are actually aware, basically, of the point that you just raised, that if you do something with the right intentions, but actually either the solution that you choose or the way it has been deployed is not entirely the right one, that there is a significant reputational risk associated with it. So sort of across the chain, across different players, very different things at play. And then standards, reporting, compliance is becoming a bigger and bigger topic almost by the day. So if we look at trucks in Europe, there are a lot of trucks. Yeah, that's we thought let's just focus on trucks for this one. Apparently, to the European Automobile Association, there are more than 6.2 million trucks on the road in Europe. I see a lot of trucks every day. I've never seen 6.2 million altogether, but that is quite a lot. From an energy perspective, it then begs the question a bit, what are we looking at in terms of energy demand? And what we have done is just sort of a back-of-the-envelope kind of estimate. What are we looking at if you would focus purely and only on diesel? And then it adds up to the staggering number of almost 190 billion liters of diesel. That is a massive, massive pool that this truck of 6.2 consumes in 1 year. However, when we look at it more from an energy transition perspective, that means that that is a volume of energy that needs to be replaced. It needs to be replaced by something else, and therefore it is irrelevant what is the energy content of it. And in this case, we calculated it then back to energy content, which is 6.7 exajoule. How many of you have heard of an exajoule ever before? All right, let me share.
You didn't even know it.
No, exactly. I needed to look this one up. It had way too many zeros. But basically, you go from megajoule to gigajoule to terajoule to petajoule and then to exajoule. And in every step, you add 3 zeros. So this is add 15 zeros to it, and then you are at megajoules. So I would say I grew up in the countryside. Where I grew up, people would say, that is a lot, boss. So... However, if we then hone in on alternatives, if we zoom in a little bit further, then in order to fulfill that same mileage, that same number of kilometers, different lower carbon solutions for logistics, some of them actually have a different energy intensity, what they require. So if we look at on the left-hand side here, in terms of the energy needed in order to fulfill that same level of mileage, that same volume, we see that e-mobility is a clear winner in terms of its efficiency. If we look at some of the other alternatives, so hydrogen is a topic also quite often discussed. Actually, when you switch to hydrogen from a number of joules perspective, you need more energy. So that is what we see on the left-hand side. And let me just explain those icons that you see on the left. So the top one is regular diesel. The next one is HVO 100. Then we have LNG, bio-LNG, EV, and then we have hydrogen as a last one. So basically, if we take diesel as a marker, we see on the left-hand side which ones are more efficient and which ones are less efficient. However, energy is only one part of the equation. So if we look at emissions, from an emissions perspective, it draws a very different picture. And here, another sort of little bit of complexity is kicking in. Because it is not only, well, it's very much on how you measure it. So again, maybe to your point. So there are different standards, of course, whether you measure it from a well-to-wheel perspective or whether you measure things from a tank-to-wheel perspective. So we've tried to highlight that using different colors on the right-hand side. Also, we have marked here that there are a couple of alternatives that actually have bio in it. Because bio, and you see that with HVO, so the second row, and bio-LNG, the fourth row, the actual carbon emissions associated with the product are very much subject to the kind of feedstock that has been used in order to create the product. And then, my biomethane colleagues always start smiling because biomethane and bio-LNG is actually the only one that can even have a negative footprint associated with it. If you have the right feedstock, if you have the right process, the logistics, the whole lot, so it all needs to come together. But actually, if we take bio-LNG as an example, if one switches over to bio-LNG, that is fantastic. However, in terms of the carbon impact of that, it can be all over the place. So it's one to really be quite aware of the actual impact that is being made. But then, before we move on to something further related, sharing some of our perspectives, another Menti.
A little bit interactive also. People at home, we can also ask you to go to the Mentimeter and use, if you are logged out, use the code 72846727. And we have an open question, so it's going to be words that's going to be spread all over this sheet. And we would like you to answer, what are the main criteria for choosing decarbonization solutions? So where are you thinking about when going to one or other forms for decarbonization? Waiting for responses, it's indicating that something is happening. Yeah, storage. Storage is a very good one, yes. Well, right now we have, also at VARO, we have storage of a lot of diesel. But how can we also store hydrogen or power? Definitely good. TCO. Easy, easy. Is diesel easy?
Who had mentioned easy? Anyone in the room, by any chance? Or is it from online? Oh, okay.
What should be easy? What should be easy then?
My name is Ruben Benders. I'm also from VARO, so maybe this is not a setup. I'm responsible for the electrification part, so e-mobility. And what you see quite often is that there is so many options one can choose from that it's not so difficult to lose the oversight. It's a lot about technology, complexity in the grid, etc. So you can easily get lost. So isn't it great to have a solution which is not so complicated? So this is not a pro or con for e-mobility. It's just, I think, what people like.
Thanks.
Simplicity.
Thanks, Ruben. It's
maybe
who doesn't like a bit of ease?
Maybe we take this one, price. I also see somewhere cheap. But who said something price or cheap? Who? Is there somebody who would like to add something to it? What is important on the price?
I think this is a no-brainer. Like, we are working with commercial perspective for the majority of the time, and the person who's going to pay for all of the transition is the final customer, and the price is the baseline for us. We have to find sources to do the change somehow, and good willingness and education in our heads is not going to finance it. So.
Thanks.
What is then important of the price? Is it investment or is it operating costs?
If you ask my manager, it's the both of it, of course. There's no willingness to do big investments, especially right now in a specific time of the decade that we have in logistics right now. It's going a little bit low, so it's really difficult for the management to squeeze out the big investments, but there's no way for high costs over long periods of time. I think we have to consider investments over the longer periods of time to balance the investments a little bit more, because we know that this is going to create some savings in the long periods, but it's still difficult to translate that to people who are mainly operation focused.
Great.
Very good point. Yes.
Thanks a lot. And it's actually quite funny, interesting that multiple of these reference to cost. So price, TCO, cost, see different things there. So let's maybe just spend a little bit of time on before we go to cost, on actually the readiness of solutions. So we thought, as an energy provider, let's also just bring a perspective on how realistic is it to only bet on one racing horse. And that is what you see here. So what you see is for each of the decarbonization solutions, so HVO, bioLNG, EV and H2, needing electricity, how much do we actually have today? And how much do we need by 2030? And then again, in order to fulfill that same demand in terms of number of kilometers. And then what you see, and this is no surprise, you will see that none of these actually can do the trick. So in the end, the conclusion that can be drawn from this is that it is not a single solution that in the end will win, so to say, that can claim dominance, but you actually need a mix, and a mix of different solutions. And then every solution will have its pros and cons in terms of technical solution, in terms of operational considerations, also referred to by all of you just now. Some solutions that may work for one company may be difficult to implement for another company. So it is actually across that patch how different things can come together. And for those that are looking after large fleets, it can also be differentiating actually within the fleet itself as to which solutions to adopt for which kind of purposes and applications. If we then hone in a little bit on cost, because we anticipated that this would be a topic that would surface, what we have put here is just sort of a perspective, and this is, by the way, a bit of a Frankenstein perspective. But we thought if we just sort of translate into fuel cost on a per kilometer basis, so this disregards the vehicle. But the thing is that in many countries there's subsidy for the vehicle at the moment. So we thought, let's just park that. Let's only focus on the fuel side of things. What we see here is how these fuel costs roughly are coming together on a per kilometer basis for each of these different solutions, ranging from diesel to HVO 100, LNG, bioLNG, electrification, and then hydrogen, where we've made a distinction between grey and green. What you also see, so that is sort of one insight, this is purely cost. The other insight that we've added with those dotted lines is actually how the cost balance on the price per kilometer basis for the fuel only, how that will change when the emissions trading scheme 2 will be implemented. That is still a little bit far away. It's only 2027 when it will be implemented. However, if you have a fleet and you need to make replacement investment decisions, what kind of technology for propulsion and drivetrains to embrace today, it is something to bear in mind. So what we have done here is, and that's the Frankenstein bit, we've coupled the fuel price roughly today with a perspective on where these ETS prices may end up in terms of a euro per ton CO2. And then what you see is that actually today, for example, if you take HVO and diesel, if you compare those to each other, but same applies for LNG and bioLNG, one may argue that the sustainable option is more expensive. However, when ETS actually kicks in, at a certain point, that balance may shift. And that more sustainable one may become more affordable, more competitive, because the fossil, the conventional fuel option, because of its higher emissions, will incur more of the carbon tax. So it's something, as I said, a bit of a Frankenstein assessment, but nonetheless, I think as an insight for all of us to be aware of and to take home with us. Moving to another mentee.
So we can also grab our telephone or we already have it in our hands. Also the people online, we have the question, what are the main things that you need help, things you need...
That's a typo, Eric. So
right.
you need help with, yes.
To scale up decarbonization solutions. So in other words, what is also maybe blocking you and where do you need a kind of a solution for? So what are the things that you need help for to scale up decarbonization? What are the things that you're looking for? I see some things that is not really energy related, but it's important. Time, people, and money, that were the first three, though that was the most important one. Infrastructure, of course, it has to do with, I assume, with power, but it can also be with hydrogen. Energy connection. Energy connection can be, well, congestion in the grid. Investments. Synthetic fuels. Kijk eens, that is something that we have not considered at this moment because it would be out of the ranking in prices.
It
will be something for the future, but somebody says we need synthetic fuel at this moment already. Accountancy. So it's the reporting also that we need. Okay, that's true, because ETS and CSRD is asking for a lot of attention for that. Long-distance electrical trucks. Well, they're coming. This morning we heard that that is already 500 kilometers. And of course you need to wait. Clear long-term framework. Well, that is already there, because we're aiming at the goal of 2050 to be net zero. Of course, there are some changes in this regulation and not everything is final. So I understand why it's mentioned here. Place for windmill park. Yeah, the sea is, at one time, it's full.
Great.
Vision.
Yes, I was about to say, who added vision? Is it anyone in the room?
Is somebody also saying would like to say something about what the needs are to go to decarbonization? Somebody? No.
All right. So maybe.
I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry.
I always like to say something. Yeah. So I think what I think it's all. You know, especially if you look to the trucks, it's all very insecure. It's a lot of investments, but where are we going? Where's the market going? What are the real solutions? I think there's so many open questions. You know, even if you have stations where you can load, you know, fill your truck with electricity, how long will it take? How will it be organized? You know, what we don't want is that in ski holidays that all the Teslas are in traffic to charge, you know, their car, and how it's still not clear. And I think in the end, if you look to logistics, they are always the end of the whole supply chain where, you know, where customers don't pay enough. So it's also a high risk. And I think, you know, if you look to most truck companies, trucks drive maybe 100 hours a week. So how, you know, what is the good solution? And you are here, I hear more companies were coming up with solutions, but does it add up for the user? And I think if it's not clear, people won't make the move.
Well, thanks. I think that is a great insight. And I'm not sure, so by the way, this is not deliberate, this is not something staged, but it is a nice bridge to the next thing I want to raise. So. Yes. So, and we will buy you something later on. So, no, thanks a lot. Let's say, before we close, just wanted to, again, sort of emphasize how we all need to do this together. Yeah, it's different players along the value chain that in the end need to work shoulder to shoulder in order to figure out what makes sense today. So what kind of a decision can you actually take today? And which ones are sort of decisions to push out a little bit further in time? This is something where different regulatory bodies put different pressures across the different players along that value chain. So, and I think there also collectively we have something that we can do. We at least can decide as being partners in this value chain to all sing from the same hymn sheet, to be consistent in terms of the messaging that we relay, to be crystal clear in what kind of help is needed in order to further accelerate the energy transition for the logistics sector. So I would say with that, I would like to basically wrap up this one. And if there's anything further in terms of Q&A, happy to do. But thanks a lot. We'll be around to further share our perspectives if, in case you're interested. And thanks a lot also for those online. Thanks a lot, everyone, and see you later.